The Lord has given favor. The Lord has been opening doors for us. And it's the same for you. Same God. He's no respecter of persons. Your role is to be raised up above the nations, be someone that influences nations, cultures, industries for God's kingdom. Favor doesn't end with being seen by kings. Once you're in the room, you must learn how to discern God's opportunities and how to handle those partnerships. So in the previous video, we talked about how supernatural favor isn't about forcing doors open, but it's about prophetic placement. It's about God orchestrating influence. When you're faithful in simplicity, I've received a small, and it's big instruction from the Lord, but it's small in terms of it's so digestible. It's the next thing I need to do. It's what's on my Father's heart. And I've received that, and there's been so much oil on it, so much favor on it. That's what God does. When He's orchestrating influence, He gives you a way to be faithful. And so that's what we looked at in the previous video. We talked about Joseph, Daniel, Esther, how they were positioned to bring heaven's wisdom, and God brought them before the rulers, the influencers, or what the Bible calls the kings of the land. But this is the thing. Favor doesn't end with being seen by kings. Once you're in the room, you must learn how to discern God's opportunities and how to handle those partnerships, because it's about growth and scaling. And so if you'll recognize the difference between a divine opportunity, I'll call it a divine gate, and a distraction, then you'll have the discernment needed to move in the arena of favor. And so what I want to do in this video is go deeper into how to handle divine access, how to handle it in a way that transforms business life and even transforms industries and cultures. 2 weeks ago, we did one of the largest Christian online events. And I say that not to brag. We almost hesitated, but I'm boasting in the Lord. The Lord has given favor. The Lord has been opening doors for us. And it's the same for you. Same God. He's no respecter of persons. Your role is to be raised up above the nations. That means be someone that influences nations, cultures, industries for God's kingdom. So, what do I want to say? First of all is the discernment aspect. You've got to discern the difference between the spiritual gate and distraction. So Revelation 3 verses 7 and 8 says, "Behold, I've set before you an open door which no one is able to shut." Not every opportunity is God's opportunity. Some doors, they lead to compromise. I've felt the pain of this. And so practically, you've got to think about, what is it that gives me peace? What is it that gives me pressure? And if you're really honest with yourself and you just sit down with yourself and think, where are these opportunities in my life that actually they're not very peaceful? I've got pressure. I've got an angst about them. You need to know that's your discernment working well, because God's doors bring peace. They don't bring manipulation. Think about, here's another principle, the contrast between alignment and compromise. So if a area that seems like maybe this is an area of favor, maybe this is an area of blessing, but actually when you think about it, it requires you diluting your values, then it's not of the Lord. And I'm not calling you a scoundrel. I'm just letting you know, you and I both, we have to sit in the Spirit, in the presence of God, to have the light and the discernment to realize, hold on, this looked good for a minute, but I'm realizing there was the promise of a payday. I'm realizing there was a promise of impact, but actually it's diluting my values. This is not the Lord. And it requires you to have a large spirit, a big, expansive soul filled with the presence of God and the wisdom of God. But the beauty of it is you will carry your life into the right places that have alignment. Another practical application would be the contrast between kingdom impact versus ego. You've got to ask yourself, is it advancing God's purpose, or is it just boosting your pride? Don't dismiss this too quickly. The ego of man is always very, very, very close at hand. You can look like Joab, somebody guarding David's great armory and resources, but actually inwardly the ego gets in the way and it leads to your downfall. It could be an Absalom. There are just so many opportunities for your ego to get in the way, but consider and discern where it's kingdom impact. That is the space of the Father's provisions of exceptional favor. So then in your business realm, how does this apply entrepreneurially? Before you sign contracts, you need to carefully ask, is this a gate of God's opportunity and favor, or is this a distraction? And what you're doing well there is using that discernment alongside your due diligence. Let me give you a second area, is think about practical ways that you can apply this in business. Think about strategic partnerships. Okay, is this ego? Is this kingdom? Is this of the Lord? Does it impact the kingdom? And expect kings to seek you out. Expect it. I experience people of far greater influence in business, in money, in terms of total revenue, and podcasters, social media influencers make contact with me, some of them unbelievers, and they're seeking solutions from me. And I realize it's not a function of the size of my social media following. God has carried my reputation and the reputation of the Goshen team before rulers and kings and those in authority. You should then know that in that place of favor, you will be expecting investors, executives, leaders to seek you out. And what those things are, you'll experience they are alignments. They of divine assignment on your life, and definitely not random luck. You're walking in the covenant that God has on your life. Business schools have never taught this, but this is what the school of the Spirit teaches you. And in that fashion, you can treat every business agreement with that level of reverence and fear of the Lord. You know, it makes me think about Psalm 112, one of my favorite Psalms, that describes and defines it again. Blessed is the man who fears the Lord. If you walk in that reverence, you have this. Blessed is the man who delights greatly in his commandments. And it goes on, it talks about your children inheriting the earth, and it says, wealth and riches shall be in his house. That is that level of walking in God's covenant that you'll be in. And your integrity in deals is going to be a part of your witness there. The innovation, the wisdom of God will be on you. You know, Proverbs says that the wisdom of God is like apples of gold in settings of silver. That prophetic assignment will be flowing from you. Innovation will be coming from you. New solutions is God using you to answer cultural problems. When the economy is faltering and there's cultural tension, you will be a beacon of light there. And so you've got to ask yourself, what is the wisdom of heaven for my industry? That's why you're here. That's why you're breathing. And you'll be the steward of resources and wealth that is, people will look at you and say, how are you so different? You're not using this wealth for indulgence. What is this about you that you're advancing the kingdom of a divine ruler? Unbelievers have used that about me. I had this guy who was he's a self-defense influencer with such a huge footprint, and he said, I'm not at peace, I'm not at rest, I'm messing up in my life. But what I see upon you is like the peace of some sort of the divine. So he used that kind of terminology. And I told him about the mercy that is found only in the face of Jesus. And he's still on his journey. We've got another call coming up. But that's being on the Father's assignment. And you're using those prophets then to fuel lasting impact in people's lives. And I'll give you one more key. And the revelation in this key is that this is more than ministry as we've known it. It's more than marketplace as we've known it. Favor with kings is a big, deep, broad, mysterious condition. It's about influence where you're part of God working systems here into the earth for an enduring, lasting advance of his kingdom. And that's what he's doing in your life. God is placing you as a kingdom entrepreneur into places of governance. That's why this is mysterious, I say. That's why this is so transformative in your revelation. Some of you are listening to this video are going into the arena of education. Some of you probably in finance, technology. I spoke to a man on Sunday in our church. He's in the area of mortgages and finance. And I spoke one simple sentence to him, and I said, you're a good dad, a good husband, and above all else, your desire is for the glory of God. That's how I know you're going to have an incredible favor on your life and an expansion, no matter what happens with interest rates, no matter what happens if the Fed lowers interest rates here. And I could see the spirit, I could see the emotion in his eyes. That's what God does with his sons. That's how Daniel influenced Babylon's economy and policies. It's how Esther influenced Persian law. It's good. There's another woman at church, she's getting her law degree. It's so good, so good. Get your degrees. But this is the mover of nations. It's the favor of God upon your life. And you're going to sit at the table, not for personal applause, but for that prophetic reform that God is going to use you to shape in this day and address the darkness of your generation. And so I urge you to see yourself as a spiritual ambassador in business and in trade. Brothers and sisters, this is God calling you way beyond small thinking. The favor he gives you in high places is far more than just the recognition of man. It is for that kingdom transformation. And so I urge you, treat every deal, partnership, every opportunity as a sacred assignment, like Joseph, like Esther, like Daniel. You're not there by chance. You're there by God's design, and you're there to discern those gates that Scripture teaches us of. Jacob wrestled with God and said, remember the ladder, Jacob's ladder, and the angels ascending and descending upon it? And he said, this is none other than the dwelling place of God. This is the house of God. He discerned God's gates. That's you. That's you stewarding. That's you walking in obedience. And kings will not just notice you. They will partner with you. They will desire to see you. They will come to you. And that is the kingdom of heaven coming to earth. As it is in heaven, so it is coming to earth. That's who you are.